What is going on? Y'all already know what it is. Your boy Morbius. Today is Tuesday, which means it's another episode of Comic Relief. I'm always excited to be here to get to hang out and talk shit with you guys. And why don't we just get into it, man? Y'all already know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's good, brother?
What's going on, my brother? How you doing, man?
What's happening? Good.
Hanging in there,
Chilly
doing
out here.
good.
We good.
Salute to shout out to Scheme and Jay and Crash. So I know the brothers had reached out to them, but they weren't able to come on and hang out. So shout out to them. I know they wanted to come on today, and was trying to get the whole crew to hang out, but obviously it didn't work out. But I got you, lovely Paul.
Busy dudes. We're just not that busy, I guess. You know?
Exactly. We got nothing going on and shit. Salute to you, my brother. Salute to everybody that's coming in, hanging out with us. Today's gonna be a great day. Another day to talk bullshit and talk comics. And y'all already know how we do here, man. So real quick, salute, cheers to y'all. Salute. I switched it up today. I went from the Henny, I went to an old fashioned. So salute to y'all with that. I'm doing my bartender shit now.
I'm looking forward to one of those in a month. So
yeah. Oh hell yeah, I'm gonna hook it up, man. I can't wait till you come through. Hopefully you guys definitely. I know King Khan is coming up, so if you're able to come through, what day is it? I know we was just looking it up.
You know what? I looked on the IG. I was checking it out, and I never even got to it. So
Couldn't find it yet.
I know it's 2 days this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 2-day. So hopefully
25th and 6th March.
Anybody who's on the East Coast could come hang out. But let's go to the chat, man. Let's see who's hanging out with us right now before we get into it today. Of course, shout out to John, Comics with Kids. You already know. Let's trigger some folks, as we always do and should. Unruly Simeon, man. Salute to you, my brother. Always hanging out with us. Salute to Big Daddy John. What's good, John?
What's up,
always
John?
A pleasure to have you in here. Of course, we got Leroy. Leroy, I'm gonna say something, Leroy. When you posted your pics for Egypt, the whole time, because your profile pic on your IG, I don't know, you look like Mix or something, and then you got your name, Leroy, you know what I'm saying? So all this time, I'm thinking like, oh, either he half black or light skin, like what's going on? Then I saw the pictures from Egypt, and I was like, oh. Now, maybe I might be wrong. I don't know, Leroy, but you got to clear that up because, I was talking to Paul. I was like, yo, did you see? I thought he was, but he looked like, I'm confused, man. Leroy, please clear this up, man. Like, you got any black in you? What's going on, man?
Oh, shit.
But shout out to Free Comics. What's good, my brother? We keep it 100 here, man. We keep it honest, man. So, and have fun with it. Yo, Planet Mayhem, salute. Appreciate you stopping by, hanging out with us. Of course, we got Frank Castle, Comics and Coffee. Coffee and Comics. I always say Comics and Coffee.
Yo, he was teasing me with all them facsimiles he had out.
You know what I'm saying?
Tomorrow.
Oh, he pulling out those facsimiles. I got it. You know what?
The Spidey, the 129 comes out tomorrow.
You gotta hit him up. Man. He'll pull them for you, man. You got it. That's why. Matter of fact, I gotta hit you up. So shout out to Phil's Treehouse. What's going on? Appreciate you stopping in, hanging out with us, man. Thank you so much. He said, here we go. Okay. So he's I'm Irish. Okay, makes sense. I'm named after my grandfather. Oh shit. That's crazy. That's what's up, though. Salute to your grandfather, bro. Your grandfather was holding it down, man. But yeah, okay, so that clears things up because I was fucked up for a second there, man. The whole time, all these, like what, year and a half, 2 years almost, man. 2 years, right? Going the brother, I'm like, yo, that's he a light skinned brother. You know what I'm saying? That's the Leroy, that's light skinned brother right there. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I wasn't like, yo, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you, my nigga. You would have been like, oh, my friend. But nah, salute, brother. Nah, appreciate you, Leroy, for real, man. True comic head collector. Yeah, But yeah, today let's just, we're gonna talk. And I know in the comments on when I posted the show for today on IG, I know Daryl was like, read your comics, his handle. Daryl was like, oh, I know this is gonna be a short conversation because everybody's gonna be like, yo, what book would you rather, what books, if you're gonna spend money on or collect books, whether it's you're investing or you're just collecting, like, would it be like Silver Age, Bronze, or even Golden Age, or would it be modern, books? And Daryl was like, yeah, that's a short conversation. Everybody's gonna be like Silver, Bronze.
You'd be surprised though, man.
But there's people that
there's
collect
plenty of people that got,
right.
Like, let's say all the people with them, slabs, just because that's generally what reeks the most, reaps the most money. Then people with them 9/8 Spidey, them ultimate Fallout 4s.
Exactly.
That book's a couple G's, right?
I assume. I don't know. I haven't.
I would pay that for one.
I would. I mean, no, obviously not. But I mean, I know what you mean, because there's times where you see something that came out that's modern that you're interested in, like that book per se, and you just pick it up because you're like, oh, let me check this out. What's going on? But like, as far as like predominantly, like what you looking for exclusively, like that's what, I'm really trying to, ask more of, like what it is that, like, predominantly what your collection is about, what you prefer, what's on your mind constantly, what you looking for constantly. Is it modern? Is it old school? I know Albert, he has said also on IG, he made a comment about Golden Age. That's what he was pretty much the only guy. So hopefully he jump on here and able to hop on. Speaking of hopping on real quick, let me copy this link right here. So anybody who's interested, hop in the chat real quick, say your piece, and let us know what y'all think real quick. We got some people in the building that just hopped in. Let's say what's up. Who we got here? We got Moonlit. Michelle, what's going on? Michelle? Always a pleasure to see you. We got Actual Dracula. What's going on? Glad to see you again, hanging out. And yeah, so definitely, man. That's my way I was looking at it. Like, what's priority for you? Is it modern? Is it Silver Age? That's what I'm thinking. When I ask that question. And also it could go whether you're like an investor. If you're about investing in comic books and that's all it's about the money, then what's is it the modern now? Is it the variants? Is it the what? You know what I mean? Like, anybody out there, y'all could chime in because that's not my expertise, but those are things that I'm thinking about. Is that the direction you're going with? But then again, you think about the variants, how long do they last and hold that price point? So is it really viable? You know what I mean? So I think obviously for us is obviously, Oh, I just saw him right here. Shout out to Big Sove.
What's up, Sove? We know Sove's heavy on the modern books. He buys like 10 copies of.
Oh, yeah, he gets like 15 copies of a fucking variant and shit.
Listen, I used to have a friend, right? This dude, like a Facebook friend, I guess, from a few years back, from posting in comic book groups. And he used to always be like, if I post a book like a Silver Age X-Men, he'd be like, oh, I want to get that. I want to get that. He was always like, you got that book. I want to get that. And I was like, well, why don't you just buy one? He was like, I'm trying to save up. But this dude would spend like $100 a week on new books. He bought every variant. He bought like 10 titles a week. And I told him one time, I was like, if you just didn't buy no new books for like 2 months, you could go buy like a friggin' Hulk 181. I mean, this was a few years back, but and it was like, he didn't really think of it like that until he kind of sat back and was like, damn, I spent a lot of money on modern shit. If I just saved it, I could buy some Silver Age.
Right. Yeah, no. And I definitely get it. And like also what Phil said, actually, it was something that I used to say when people used to tell me that, like, oh, why you buying that, a modern book? And I would be like, yeah, well, it's almost like if you're I've even told you, Paul, we've had that conversation with, a modern book today, yes, is going to be what you would call a Silver Age book, 20, 30 years from now and shit. So,
and in some cases, a lot of cases, the print runs now, they're kind of a lot smaller. I mean, even in the Silver Age, there's, those books were selling 50 to 100,000 copies a month. And now if a book sells like 10, that's considered like a lot, so.
Yep, true.
Who knows? But everybody keeps them, they put them in bags and boards and, hey, what's up, Steve? So, I mean, then that's like a whole other category. But basically, all modern books are like high grade. So usually to get that, excuse me, you get that price is when, because it's hard to find a Cap 100 in high grade. It's not hard to find an Ultimate Fallout 4 in high grade. Every one of them is in high grade.
I think and then when you're in the retrospect to that, when you look at it, it's more like, that book, like you said, you know, amazing Spider-Man, you know, was Amazing Fantasy was Spider-Man, sorry. It was also modern when it came out. But it's a difference, you know, because back then you had a different way of writing. It was a different way of drawing. So that's, I think, what separates it. You know what I mean? I think it's not really to say that, oh, something now is going to be, you know, a Silver Age down the road. I think what really makes the book or the era what it is the context of it, of how it was put together, you know, the style of writing of that era of time when these books were created. You know, I think that also makes that, you know, viable decision making, you know, when you do that, because you're not just, you buy a Silver Age book, but you're also buying an era, you're buying a time, you know, you're looking at it from that perspective, you know, like you're it's not just a book, it's not because of the age, you know. That's how you got, you know, that's from that direction you could also look at it. It's just, you know, it'll be a book now is going to be Silver Age 20, 30 years from now, but the whole style of this era now, 20, 30 years around, is going to have a wholly different, you know, perspective, you know, like it is when we look at a Silver Age. We got Frank Castle in the building. What's going on, Frank?
Hey, what's good, brother?
Appreciate you stopping in. What's going on? What's your take on this, brother?
Yeah, I just want to shoot in and make a few comments because everybody's collecting style is always different. And for me, it's Paul said it.
This guy, man, look at this.
Like, this is modern, but it's not modern. This is the facsimile. This is the one that drops tomorrow.
I can assure you that's the best new comic this week, guaranteed.
That's my view. So it's like, if you just see the wall too, like, I like anything that has ASM 129 in any kind of context, or Punisher, whether it's modern or if it's silver, golden, whatever. But also, I do got a number of golden age stuff, but I also like my moderns too. So when it comes to actually collecting stuff, I do have a set focus. And I like right now, I'm only focusing on my NAM run. I want to complete that run. And then I think the next thing I'm going to get into is actually a bunch of modern stuff. Not even because it's a collectible, valuable thing. It's more about the story and what I want to get into. And a lot of the stuff is newer Brubaker stuff that he's been writing lately. And I like to collect that kind of stuff. I know people get into it to collect for monetary reasons, and that's fine. But you never know what's going to be valuable in the future. You know, nobody knew that ASM 129 was going to be worth a dime when it first dropped, or even heck, Action Comics #1. We didn't know that was going to be going for $3.2 million. You know. Yeah, that's why there's none left of them, because people were just reading them and putting them in their back pocket back then.
Yep, roll them up, stuff them in your pocket. Yo, that mug, man. I gotta get that mug.
You know, back then, and then also that market was so small. Hey, there you go, you got the mug. Tell me you got the tattoo. Tell me you got a tattoo.
I do, but it's embarrassing.
I know you had a tattoo. I know you had it. But yeah, you know, it's also, it just goes back to just that era. You know what I mean? I think a lot of it is played off that, to me, you know, in the sense that we try to relate. Oh yeah, it's just like that, but actually it's not. You know what I mean? Because this is a totally different time in comic books, you know, where we're saturated with content. You know, and it's such a big market, you know, on so many facets. So I think that changes a lot of it now, where I feel like a lot of stuff now, you know, like we just went through it, or we're kind of still going through it, that big hype, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything, the inflation, everything was crazy. Of course, it's going down, but still not everything, because I still see some crazy people on eBay. So I'm just like, people, I guess, haven't caught on. They're still trying to push these fucking books at crazy prices. And, you know, and so I think that at the bottom dollar, yeah, we all collect differently. That's, you know, obvious, you know, but I think when I asked that question, it was more in the sense of, like, when I said the main focus, what it is that drives you, You know, when you think of comic books, is it instantly, you know, the more modern stuff today, or you just bypass that? Don't even that's not even on your radar, and you're just going, you know, with the more older stuff, you know. And to be honest, like Golden, I never thought about even, you know, I appreciate it. I you know, I look at it. I, you know, got some facsimiles from Golden Era books, but it's never crossed my mind to be like, oh yeah, I want to pick up a Golden Era book.
Right.
Just
I think part of the collecting aspect, at least maybe I'm projecting on people, but I think a big part is nostalgia, right? Like it's something where Punisher to me is something I grew up on. Frank Castle has been that identity forever. So anytime I see something, whether it's a new modern book or an old, whether it sucks or it's amazing, I want it. You know, whether that's because it's a nostalgic era that brings me back to a happy place in my life at a point where maybe it wasn't happy or not. I don't know. Reading Punisher when I was like 8, so it was kind of weird. But it's one of those like ideas. Same thing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's another thing I collect. That's another thing that I jump on. Some of the new stuff I'm not a big fan of because it's just the art style. The Eastman stuff is amazing. So I normally go after his modern covers when he produces them because that's the nostalgia for it.
Right.
I think that's a big part with a lot of people in collecting, though. There's some kind of connection, like what dropped yesterday. DC, I forget the name of it, but it's the NWA homage cover. That's been big, dude. I think I got 2 left now. I'm like nearly sold out of everything because people want that. They want to collect that hip hop cover, and it's nostalgia purpose because of what that representative wanted. Right. Deceased, that's what it was. It's deceased. And it's a dope cover. It's cool, but
I have not been keeping up with modern these last like couple months. I just been so like enthralled, you know, with the silver, the Bronze Age. You know, it's just I definitely got to get, you know, back on. That's why I'm glad Paul. He always be like, "Yo, check this out." And I'll be like, "Oh shit, did not see that." You know, we got Big Soap in the building.
So what's up, brother?
What's up, so what's your take, brother?
You know, you got this one.
Salute. What you got there?
Daryl, we were messaging back and forth the other day. He was hitting me up with the True Believers, and I just happened to dig this one out. So I was gonna see. I know my Punisher man's probably got it. What's up, Soul? What are you drinking?
What you drinking?
You got some Tang? What is that?
No, Shirley Temple, man. Shirley Temple. That's my drink of choice.
Nice. That's a dope cover.
Yeah, man. That's a nice one right there.
It is cool. I mean,
I like those, man. You know, those are dope.
Or with the Undead Gods.
You know what I mean?
Straight out of Gotham.
Don't mind me, guys. Y'all can talk it. I'm about to be bartending real quick right now. trying to make me another old fashioned real quick.
So how many modern books you buy?
I got about I'm averaging about 3 or 4 a week.
That's not that bad, I guess.
No, but I slimmed it down. There's been times where I'm buying more titles than I'm actually reading. You know, sometimes I go back and read those titles. Other times I realize just cut it out. But I've really slimmed it down to like this week. I think I'm picking up 6 books. But last week was 3 books. You know, 6 is probably the maximum I'll pick up. But I've really cut it down to what we talk about a lot is read what you like, buy what you like. If I'm not enjoying a title, I'm happy to drop it. What's the point of me wasting my money if I'm not enjoying the book? As far as the FOMO and
sometimes it's hard to break that streak, though. You know, I've been buying Wolverine and Punisher since the late '80s, and even though they're both pretty bad right now, I still keep buying them. You know,
I was gonna bring that up because Paul, I'm with you with Punisher, this new Jason Aaron run.
Yes,
I still get it every week, and I'm like, why? But I got it.
I can't break the streak because like I used to be that way with a lot of titles. Thankfully, I've like pared it down to pretty much it's just Wolverine and Punisher. I figure I'm just always gonna get, even when they're dog shit. So
because when they're dog shit, you're hoping that they're gonna be better for the next.
I hope, man. I had high hopes for Aaron, and actually, this last Wolverine series started off okay. They had like it was like 2 stories in one. They had like the vampire. Half the book was like Wolverine and the vampires, and the other half was like the Krakoa stuff. But then it just, they just wore me out with it. I don't know. I've just come to the realization I'm just not into new books, new comics. I've grown too old, or the books just got too shitty, which is really what it is. But
probably what
I just, like, they ruined me with X-Men. Hickman era was such a disappointment. I just can't keep up with it, you know.
Yeah, so I think that's why I also switched a big focus to indies a lot. So I do a lot of indies. And whether you call it collecting or just for reading's sake, you know, it depends. There's a few that I do collect on, like the Brubaker stuff, but like Tinian just came out with the new Blue Book that's dropping tomorrow. And I've been excited for that because I dig Tinian as a writer on stuff that's not canon, like on his own stuff. It's been great. So that's something I'm stoked on, and hopefully I'll get into it. And it's great too because they're normally short, like 6-issue series, and that's it. So you ain't got to be stuck on it for like 400 titles or something.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think at this point, man, you know, it's like what Soul was saying. If you know, if that's where you at, you know, if there's something that you enjoy, or even if it's just something like Paul and, you know, Frank, that it's just that's your character. You can't stop. Yo, what's that noise? Is that me? You heard a noise? Anybody hears?
I did hear it when you were kind of.
Let me hop out, come back in, maybe. I'm not sure. I heard this like, yeah, it's me.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. All right, let me just hop out. Just hop back in.
Pop.
Hold on 1 second.
And just like that, he's gone.
But he's got a point when it comes down to like reading what you're into, and when it comes to like Punisher, I'll probably always pick up a Punisher title no matter what, just because that's something I collect.
Tomorrow is a War Journal book that comes out tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's the War Journal base that's out.
Is that a
I see John. He said that, you know, he's been loving the Aaron Punisher. I would ask you a question though, John. Have you been reading Punisher for like 20, 30 years? I'm just curious if it's like just people newer to the character who don't have this like ingrained like attachment to what they think he should be, and trying to read this, and it's like such a drastic, you know, this is like Frankencastle 2.0, you know, it's just, it's just not.
I like Frankencastle because I knew what they were doing with it. It was supposed to be a spoof. It was supposed to be something kind of. They took the Punisher, created this entire new backstory to him, even in this Aaron run, and that's something I can't get behind. I don't understand how you can have a character his canon for so long and then suddenly just say, oh, wait a second, you know what? Screw anything that happened with his family or with Vietnam. And no, he's always just been a psychotic little 10-year-old kid, and the hand has always been in his life. That's what I don't get.
I look at it like this, you know. The Marvel Comics proper Punisher, he died in the mid-90s when they electrocuted him. And anything after that is not real. And then from that point, it was like Punisher Max on is Punisher, you know. That's how I got to rationalize that.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of people out there who like the new series, and it's not very good if you've been following them for years. But if you have nothing to base it on, I can see how you might enjoy the book. There's several people out there I've talked to that they're getting a kick out of it. They're enjoying it. And then I talked to several other people, you know, fans of the book. They can't stand it. They're trying their best to like it for some reason or another. They're not feeling it.
Well, you know, it's kind of like Coffee was saying, you know, when it's like there's this thing in modern comics, you know, because even like the Hickman stuff, right, with X-Men, people like it. And even I can say it was it's okay as like a comic book. It's just not X-Men. Or this Punisher story, I guess, is cool about resurrecting this guy's wife and making him making him do these certain things, but it's just not Punisher. You could just write that story. It could be anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like it's just not true to how the character was for decades.
There's 2 points. One major point I'll make on that, because one, I was pretty stoked because I was questioning after when I heard about this new run. I was like, how are they going to make him run the hand? He would go in and just kill these dudes. Like, that makes no sense. So them resurrecting his wife made sense. So I like that idea. I was like, I get it. That's probably the reason why. But then if we go back to ASM 129, he got suckered into almost killing Spider-Man by a bad guy. You know what I mean? His first inception, he was getting manipulated. So they didn't really take away too much from who he was based on where he came from. But I did think they went a little bit too far with some of the changing.
But I feel like there was another story with him at some point, maybe like later 90s, where he was promised his family back or something to that effect, and he like rejected it because it wasn't gonna be like I'll dig up like the story, I'll find the books or whatever, but you know, it's almost like the Angel Punisher thing when he was the Angel of Death with the symbol on his forehead that Bernie writes in drawn series, I don't know, man.
That was a fun little mini offshoot, though. I thought it was just really quirky, but because it wasn't canon, it was just like, we're gonna go throw this out there and do it.
That was that late 90s era where Marvel, everything was kind of like, could have ended at any moment,
I do think, though, with what you're talking about, that's something that maybe they should have explained more in this, because they never brought up the fact of how, like, because maybe they already resurrected his wife. He goes somewhere, walks in and sees her, and then suddenly he's just flooded with emotion, and he gets duped into it. But yeah, you're right. I think there is a story where somebody did propose it to him, and he turned it down.
I feel like that's just out of character for him, though. Like, he would call bullshit, and I don't think he'd want his wife resurrected, and in as payment for that, he would lead a cult of murderers.
Like, but they are kind of portraying it like he's using the hand to kind of take out other bad kind of like people or whatever. So
he has stepped up with his morals. Like, he's been like, hey, you're not killing anyone unless I say so. You're not doing this. I have a feeling, and I kind of hope they go this route with it towards the end. He does end up just internally annihilating them all. Like, I think like that's like his way of like, all right, cool, you brought my wife back. I didn't want it, but I'm going to use this as a tactic to then eventually just kill you all.
No,
we'll see though. I don't know.
It's trippy.
Everything I've read Punisher just feels it feels real awkward.
It does.
So back to the topic. Not the fucking Punisher tinging y'all motherfuckers going on right now. I let y'all slide for a little while. I was like, you know what? I see they got a fucking art on.
Talk about selective Punisher.
I let them talk a little bit. All right, enough is enough. Nah, seriously, but like, I think in the sense of it all, like what's the majority of your collection? Like, you guys here, what would you consider your main collection? Like, percentage wise, let's go with Stove. How your collection are with modern and silver and bronze?
I got a lot of bronze. I got a lot of 90s. I got a lot of just current books. It's spread pretty even throughout.
Yeah, bronze is probably my biggest chunk is bronze.
It's bronze?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, I know Paul already. It's mostly silver.
No, I mean, technically speaking, I probably have more bronze than anything, but
yeah, I'm more bronze than anything.
Definitely like a lot of silver and in the 80s, shit we bought growing, right off the rack in the 80s,
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. If anybody here in the chat, let us know what y'all working with. What's your main collection? Is it silver? Is it a mix of both? Modern and silver or bronze? Let us know. We could get into that. I think at the end of the day, it's like it's back again. That noise, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
God damn it! What the hell is going on? All right, time to disappear, motherfuckers. I'll be back.
They tapping your phone or what? What's going on?
Probably. I'll be back.
Did it go away?
But, you know, I don't. When it comes to collecting, I don't focus on like, oh, I'm just going to go for Bronze Age. I think it's more about just the stuff that I like happen to be mostly in the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
And the artwork and the artists at the time. Like, I don't like a lot of Golden Age artwork, to be honest. Like, I got some Golden Age and I dig it. Like the stuff my grandfather gave me back here, like some Jet Aces and stuff. It's cool. It's nostalgic. It's rad. But I like certain artists from the Bronze Age era, and that's why most of my stuff is Bronze Age. It's not, you know.
The Bronze Age book had a lot more continuity, consistency. Like, you know, all the art was similar. They cultivated a lot of, you know, even between, you know, Marvel, DC, they had artists that were along the same line, so you could go from title to title and still know what you were reading, what you were getting into. And it was, you know, it was classic American comic book. The writing was I don't know, it was more fantastical in the sense of these adventures that these people went on. Modern books, I feel some of them can be good, but they don't have that same feel that they used to. You know, not even talking about page quality and things like that. They just don't. They don't care about continuity. They're more concerned about what's hot and selling. And I get that, they're a business. You know, you gotta sell stuff. That's what you do.
Everything's shock value, you know.
Right. It's what can we do to get another book sold versus the craftsmanship of a book.
Well, go back and read like a Bronze Age book, and then read a modern comic. You can read it in like 5 minutes. A new book, you know, take you 20 minutes to read.
You know, real quick, I actually back, you know, in early 2000 when I was like, you know, kind of dabbling back into comics because here you go again. So I had hopped out. See that noise? It has to be me, right?
I don't know. John said it could be someone who's on
someone else. So let me. All right, let's just do a quick test. Who's on a cell phone?
I'm on a cell phone.
You're on a cell phone. You're on a cell phone? I'm
on a tablet. I don't. You want me to jump out and come back in?
Well, I'll do both of you guys, and then we'll bring you. Then just come right back in.
All right.
We'll just hop out and then come right back in.
Or wait, you can try muting us. Try muting us on your end.
Oh, true. Hold on.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. See, it's not happening.
Who's that muted?
All right. So let me unmute.
Check.
All right. Check. Now I got coffee.
No.
Okay. Now I'm gonna mute coffee and then see. Sove was good. Sove. You're the culprit, Sove.
Sove's in the bunker.
You're the culprit. All right, so we're gonna hop out and just come back in, see if that helps out.
All right.
Good call.
I mean, one thing I do want to make on collecting from, like, you know, let's say Bronze or Silver Age, storyline, continuity, all that kind of stuff. So was discussing. Well, maybe if we're looking at Marvel and DC today, it's one of those things. But and again, I go back in the indie aspect. I don't know if you guys heard of or even thought of reading a book. I'm going to snag it real quick. It's called Echo Lands by J.H. Williams. It's modern, obviously. It came out about 2 years ago. It was one of my favorite reads. Instead of a standard size like this, they flipped it and made it vertical. And it goes into. Wow! But the artwork is phenomenal.
I'll just get it just for that. That's pretty cool.
The story itself is amazing.
It's goes like FF252 is like that.
Yeah.
It was like six issues, I think it was. And I mean, it's beautiful. Number one, the quality of the paper is excellent. It's a $4.99 book with this kind of quality. But on top of it, one of the greatest things about what J.H. Williams did in this, I'm a huge music head. You know, you guys are too. I know Morb is. But in the back of it, with all this extra stuff that he added into it, there's just a ton of stuff that he added. Right here, he put this section in here called The Sounds of Creation #1. So in each issue, he laid out every single artist and how he actually listened to the music while he was creating this. And there's like 3 pages of it. Of all the bands that he was listening to at the time he was making this for every issue, which I think was just something cool and awesome. And so this was definitely something I collected and got all the raw cut editions and put in my PC.
Nice, nice.
But I mean,
what's good, brother?
Not much. Is the noise gone?
A little bit. Seems like it came back a little now.
Do you have a headset so you could plug in?
Maybe try some. No.
I can jump out for the evening. I'll see y'all. I'll just see you guys on YouTube.
No, I see John said if you pop in a headphone,
yeah.
I'll jump out for tonight. I'll come back next week.
All right, buddy. We're gonna miss you. You know, like, just stay in the chat. Hang out in the chat.
All right, I'll see you shortly.
All right, man. Damn, we lost Sove. It's all right. So Sove is a survivor. But it's funny because what I was gonna say outside of, you know, that book is dope, definitely. Like, that's just something, you know, just to pick up on the strength of just the artwork, and I like that though, that whole angle. You know, it's funny. I remember that the FF.
Right.
And so I think, like, for me, it was crazy because in the early 2000s, when I started dabbling back into collecting again, it was like I hated it. Those modern books, because to me, I was so stuck on the paper, the print, you know, and just the old school way of books that when I came back, it was like, what the fuck is this? You know, and I'm seeing all these fucking, you know, laser printed photo, you know, shit. I'm like, what is this? You know, and I'm smelling it. I'm like, this shit is whack. Like, this shit ain't the same, you know, and it turned me off, man. It like really turned me off just on the fucking paper that was printed on. Like, that shit was like, even for me, I was like, yo, why am I acting this way? Like, why am I so like like, you know, so like not for this, you know? I don't know why, but it took me a good year, man, of just like accepting it. Like, you know what? I guess this is the way it is now. I gotta accept it, you know. And it took me a while, man. I was one of those stubborn people that were like, I am not buying none of this modern bullshit. I'm just gonna stick to my old school shit. And it took me a while. You know. And I'm lucky because I, you know, picked up that first Miles Morales so back in 2015. So if it wasn't for that, I would have. You know, and it was a great, at the time when I picked it up, it was one of those books that it was like, yo, this shit looks cool. Let me see what it's about. You know what I mean? They got somebody with color up in here about to be Spider-Man. What's this about? You know, and turned out to be a gem. So, you know, it's nothing wrong with picking up modern. It's just not a forte. Get it?
Right.
People take that shit the wrong way. Oh, you're not a modern guy. You got a problem with modern. Nope, never said that shit. I got plenty of modern books I still grab every once in a while. So it has nothing to do with that. But people love twisting stuff, apparently, you know. So, but definitely I think that, Paul, what's up? You itching at the bit, man. What's good? I see you.
I was gonna say, you're talking about that page quality. That shit started back in the day, though. If you remember in 87, 88, when Punisher War Journal came out, and the Wolverine series came out, those books had like you said, I was used to that newsprint.
Right.
Those books had like that slick, you know.
Right, but it wasn't like, to me, like the 2000 books, that, because I was like,
no, that's true. It wasn't that paper back then wasn't slick.
It wasn't slick, like, exactly. It didn't have that sheen, and it wasn't as
like
thick.
Magazine. Yeah, it wasn't
right.
Like
it's a lot thicker, that modern paper, and it's real slick and fucking like, you know. So I kind of was like, you know. But anyway, definitely, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, it's it doesn't matter what it is that you collect, to be honest with you. I mean, it is up to the person, whatever you want to do, that's up to you, you know. But I think that you got to be careful when you're going about it as an investor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that's where you got to play it real fucking, you know, real slick, because you could get caught up. And we were having that conversation before, you know, when this whole like variant shit, you know, everybody's getting caught up on these variants, picking up the 1 in 25, the 1 in 50, the 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. And they're just thinking like, oh, man, I'm a bank on this shit. You know, and then you go look back a year, 2 years later, and these books are nowhere near what the fuck they were going for. you know, back then. And I think that a lot of people get caught up with that. You know, they'll buy, you know, a few of those books thinking like, hey, I'm sitting on a gold mine here. And turns out you just blew your fucking money away. You know, so I think you got to be careful. I know, Frank, you got some insight on that, pretty sure.
Yeah, I talk myself out of a lot of sales here in my store. Mainly because people will come in and they'll be like trying to ask, well, what's the most expensive book you got in here? I'll buy it because of it, you know, and all this. And it's like, I try to explain them in detail about incentive variance and the ratio variance and how they work and what they truly are. Because some people don't really know. They see, oh, it's a 1 in 50. That means there's only one of these out of 50. And like, no, that's per store, bro. You know, if I brought in, you know, 7,000 books, how many 1 in 50s can I bring in? That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And if we think in the market in the United States, at least, there's only about 3,500 to 4,000 comic book shops, right? So do the math. If each shop brought in like, I don't know, 7 1 in 25s times that, so there's a lot more out there than what people are perceiving there to be. Now it's different than the other incentive variants like store exclusives where they only buy like 5,000 of them and 2,000 are the virgin prints and the other 3,000 are just trade dress. Then those are legit only having like, you know, 3,000 in existence kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But here's the reality of those two. They don't hold as much value as, let's say, your standard cover A. We've seen at least the track record over the last like 70 years. The price of a regular cover A typically goes up in value more so than any of the variants, unless there was some kind of like a special artist on cover B or an incentive variant, you know, 1 in 25 this. Like if it's a George Perez exclusive, that might go up more because of who George Perez was and what he did for the industry. But if it's
like
just some other
Campbell covers are always like pricey, you know.
Yeah. See, we need, this is the kind of variant we need. Imagine that.
Back to old paper.
Imagine that. They pull out a comic with the old school paper. You know
what's funny about that though? There's only a select few people that would like that. I get a lot of customers in here that see some of those, younger kids, obviously. And they're like, oh man, this is crap. They want the slick shine. As long as the artwork is good.
Color, right.
That's the problem.
Popping. Yep. Which is understandable. I mean, that's what they know. You know, you are what you know. So if that's all you know, then you're gonna love it, you know.
And that's gonna be the change of the guard, changing the guards essentially. That's when you know, we look 30 years when we're in our like, you know, 70s and 80s and shit, we look back, those young kids that are now in their 40s, 50s, collecting the stuff that's going to be what we're sitting on today as moderns. Right. But which ones? Nobody knows. If we knew that, we'd all be millionaires, right? So we don't know what's going to be popping in that time frame. But we do know, at least on a financial collectible status, there's certain books that will maintain a certain value if those characters are still relevant. Like Superman.
Let it go. So
let it go. So it's quiet as a motherfucking church mouse in here. I can hear the cars going by fucking Coffee's house, bro. That's how quiet it is.
But when it looks at it, it's all about how relevant are the characters gonna be long term. You know, okay, you got an Action Comics #1 sold for $3.2 million over a year ago. Superman, he's still relevant today.
Right.
What about 30 years from now? Nobody gives a crap about Superman. They don't even make movies about it. They don't even talk about him. Well, then that Action Comics isn't going to be worth anything, except for the fact that it was one of the first known comics out there. You know, but
that's what I was trying to reference. Sorry to cut you off. What I was saying about the difference. The reason why those comics now are looked at the way they looked at is because of the impact they made at that time. So it's the same thing, you know, what you're saying now is like the comics now. Yeah, it's you're going to look at it, but you don't know what that's going to hold 20, 30 years from now. Like you're saying, you don't know what books are actually going to hold that kind of, you know, iconic status where they could go on for decades and people are always going to want it and go after it because it's such a great character series, whatever it is. We don't know that. You know?
I'll argue on one modern that I think personally, and again, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't quote me on this.
Quote him on it, guys.
Write
but
it down.
Tinian's Something is Killing the Children.
Yes, okay.
I think Erica Slaughter in 40 years from now,
yeah, I could see
because that book touched so many people's like eyes, right? Like so many young kids are into that series now. It's a new generation that a lot of people fell into and love. And I do have a feeling that's going to be one of those ones, like a ASM 129 is today. That's going to be that.
Funny you say that, because I think Paul, I was talking to Paul when that first came out, and I got the run. I stopped, I believe, at 20 something. You know what I mean? I kind of, because I went into that break. You know what I mean? And then I kind of like lost track of it. But I got one to the, up to 20. So I forgot what number it is. And I loved it. It was a great run. I enjoyed it. The character, she was dope. And now that you're mentioning, I'm like, shit, I need to get back to that. Because it was a good read. And hey, who knows? But I always saw that as something that could be translated into like a movie or a series. Like I saw that it's just more potential to that story than just comic books, where again, it adds to its longevity, as far as like something that could turn into like a cult classic, you know what I mean? And I think that that's definitely a potential, you know what I mean? Also, for some reason, I enjoyed Ice Cream Man. It was just something about, Ice Cream Man. That's another run that I was collecting at the time, because they both came out kind of right around the same time. And I was just got into that whole indie, horror thing. And I was like, yo, these books are really good. And what I liked about Ice Cream Man, it just reminded me like a modern day, like Twilight Zone, comic book, because every book was a different, story to tell, but it kind of ties into everything. You know what I mean? It was just like weird, and I enjoyed it. It was really out there. And, but yeah, you see, I mean, you just,
and that's why like Ice Cream Man, like to compare Ice Cream Man to, let's say, Something is Killing the Children, I would probably argue that a little bit on the older generation, like people that are maybe in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, got into Ice Cream Man. Where Something is Killing the Children, I feel like even 15-year-old kids got into that. It was more dynamic for a bigger audience. That means that kid that was 15 years old reading Something is Killing the Children, in 30 years from now, that changed his life today or inspired him in some way today. So he's going to be trying to collect that in 30 years from now again.
I know,
just
but
like Sandman did to me.
Well, it's not. So I've never read that story. I'm assuming it's not superhero related.
No.
It could be arguably superheroes.
I just wonder with stuff like that, right? Like they're good reads. Like I read like Ed Brubaker, Criminal. I read Fatale, Kill or Be Killed.
Right. Yeah.
I just think if you're looking for investment in value, I don't see that stuff really working, because here's the thing, right? None of us were alive when Spider-Man came out, or the Avengers, or the X-Men. But we all probably became, I don't want to speak for everybody, but we all became fans of those characters well after they were created. My son's 14, about to be 15. When he was little, he loved Captain America and Spider-Man. And so in other words, those characters are generational, though. So you were just saying this guy in 40 years, is his kid going to be searching some random comic series about, I don't know, just because that character, it's to me, my limited knowledge of it, but what would be the relevance in 30 years of that story?
Well, let me throw this out. You've heard of Harry Potter, right?
I have.
Isn't that kind of a thing? Isn't that kind of big?
Mean, Harry Potter's got like a theme park built around him. I mean,
why?
He's got several movies.
Because of that book.
But why? It was just a book.
Because of that book.
True. I guess you could use that argument. So let me 40 years from now, maybe no one will be into it.
Right. Possibly. Something is Killing the Children is like a Harry Potter of sorts, because it's not just like it's still going. It's like on issue 29 just drops tomorrow. But
there you go. So I'm not off.
House of Slaughter. Okay. Yeah. So House of Slaughter is another side shoot, just like X-Men goes into Uncanny X-Men. House of Slaughter is another side shoot. It's another thing. They're on issue like 13 now. Then they came out with Book of Slaughter, and they also have online areas that you can go in. So it's a whole world that's been being built, and it's continuing to go. And we don't know where the end is. It could go for another 300 issues. And so, 30 years.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're not going to be making Something's Killing the Children underoos and like sippy cups. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean,
hold up a second.
I mean, you just never really know. I like what John was saying here. real quick. He was like watching
Wizard.
Defects last night. Shout out to Preston with Defects. Talking about Wizard.
It's not quite underoos and it's not called Spiffy Cups, but this is an official bandana of Something's Killing show that people love.
They got merchandise.
Here's the red version if you want to snag one of those.
There you go. They got
merch. They got all kinds of stuff for it. So people are really into this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
not to switch it up real quick,
show about that in 40 years. We'll see what's
exactly. We're gonna hold you to it. We're gonna hold you to it, Frank. Watching Pressing with Defects, and we're talking about the Wizard mags, and he was like, is what made us think about how valuable our books were. My annual overstreet did not make me think that. True, me either. I didn't think that. Then you got Daryl. What's up, Daryl? Daryl did say he was price watching, but Daryl, why was you price watching? Just to know how much you're gonna spend or know how much you're gonna make? You know what I mean? Like, so you gotta further explain that, because I know I'm curious about that. But yeah, I think that, you know, those books at the end of the day, it's like we can't say anything right now. Right now, we pretty much speculating and shit.
It is all,
you know, it's all speculation. We can't really say this is that and that is this. But what we can say is what is already established. You know what I mean? And that we could talk about, which is the iconic books that we grew up with, the iconic books that, you know, our parents grew up with. You know,
well, actually, I have a question from someone about that. You know, my wife texted me a question.
Robert.
She said, if the books were shitty like they are now when you were kids and younger, would you care? Is it because you are old now? A, the books weren't shitty like they are now when I was a kid.
No, they're not. No.
And
no, they're not.
I don't think it's because I'm old why I don't like new shit. I just feel like if I've been reading books like a series or characters for 20, 30 years, and then now they have these drastically different takes on them, I mean, it's just, you know,
I think the idea of like, you know, our books back then, shitty or good, that's subjective. Because there was a lot of shitty books.
I was just going to say that. There were a lot of shitty books.
A lot of shitty books back
then. I think that the great books you know, like kind of like overshadows them, you know, because those books were just so detrimental to that era and to the culture and to us. You know, it really did a number, because not only because of the story, but because it was new. We were still walking on like originality. You know what I mean? These were times where things
continuity.
It was being creative, right? And that was big continuity. You know, so all those things, you knew that you picked up a book and it could tie into another book and this story. So you always felt like that connection. You always felt like you knew what was going on in the whole entire fucking Marvel universe, because everything was connected with each other. There was always that continuity. And I think that that's something that's big and has been lost now, you know, and sometimes
I think some of that actually ruined comics, though.
What?
Like, that's why I stopped reading X-Men, because it just had so many thousands of tie-ins now, and I couldn't keep up. Right now,
yeah, well,
no, even back in the like 90s to
oh no, that's the opposite for me. For me, that was like the treasure hunt.
No, because the tie-ins were good, like Age
the tie-ins were good.
That was like, got so many.
You went on the hunt.
Well, here's the different thing. Social economics plays a part too. I grew up dirt fucking, like, I couldn't buy comics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was dirt poor. So when they wanted me to buy 7 comics to try to find out what's going on, I couldn't do it.
Right. No, that's
and so I was priced out.
Right. No,
these other books that like I could maintain, like when I found Sandman back in like, I don't know, early 90s is when I first started reading Sandman. I fell in love. And that was like essentially at the time just one straight shoot. I can maintain that. I used to go into stores and just read it because I couldn't pay for it and, you know, leave. But it was one of those situations where I think we have to keep in mind certain economics for certain people and demographics just weren't accessible in some cases. So the continuity, it might mean a lot to one collector, but to others, maybe not as much. And that's why, for me, I didn't go down that X-Men path. And I love the X-Men. Like, well, it's funny.
Yeah, but that shit started, like, that was later, though. You know what I mean? That was
a little bit.
Like, that. Then they went crazy with everything crossover.
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
And what was it, Rick
Maximum? maximum clonage.
Because they saw a market in it. You know, they really saw how they could corner the shit, get more money out of these continuities, of course. But in the early stages of continuity and, you know, right, the crossovers were crazy, you know. And
I used to love the little box with the
yes,
issue 152.
See issue
like
this,
to go back.
That shit was the fucking.
Who's this shadowy character?
I love that shit. Like I fucking yearn for that shit. Every time I opened up a book, I was like, please.
Now they
please.
just make shit up out of nowhere.
Right, and pull it out their ass and shit. And you read it, and you're like, oh wait, hold on. You put the book down. If you have it, you're like, oh wait, I got that issue. And then you go and look for it, and you're like, oh, that's right. And then you go read that, and it's like
Moira McTaggart, who I read for like 30 years, is all of a sudden some fucking Omega level mutant and can we recreate all these realities. You know, I mean, it's like, come on, what are we doing?
And I get it. They got to refresh every now and then, but we gotta step back for a second and remember that there's so much out there to read. Like and so subjectively, when we're looking at certain things, like I said, I just brought up Echo Lance. Now, I don't think this is going to do anything financially, and whether it does or not, but it's a brilliant read. It's a great series. It's a great story. This holds true to more things that I read than even in the 80s and 90s. This is on top of some of that crap. Not crap, but there's some stuff that I was like, I just couldn't get into. So there are out there, but you have to seek it. You have to look for it. It's kind of like even in novels, right? Orson Scott Card, the author of Ender's Game, a lot of people read Ender's Game, or maybe saw the recent crap movie of it. Ender's Game was one of the
movie of it.
It was one of those novels that I read like in junior high that just, what? This is fucking badass. Found out there's like 15 other adaptions that continue that story that most people never heard of. They've only heard the first 3 books. But there's like 15 of them. And I went down that path and love it. But again, it's subjective. What is it you're into? What is it you like? What's going to stand the test of time? And Paul made a great point. Spider-Man's, the Avengers, we were reading those after they even came out. But why are those still in our faces? Marketing. That's it. Marvel is like, we got to push this to the next generation.
That's the thing. Some of the stuff, I guess, I'm just looking at it like, well, it's hard to market like Ed Brubaker's Criminal. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. It's a great story. I've read it. You know, I love Brubaker. This dude.
I do too.
Oh, am I getting that version? I'm getting the fire version.
You're gonna get this one, the smoky version.
I'm looking for. I'll bring my extinguisher with me. But you know, they're great stories, like in and of itself. And so I guess the longevity of it would be, hey, I read that 20 years ago. Here, you know, I'll show that to someone I may know or meet, or someone who likes to read books. You know, but as far as like that mass appeal that it's going to be on that like major level, I just can't like, you know.
And that's why I argue I don't see a ton of books, but I think Something Is Killing the Children is going to be one of those, because it touched the generation gap. The younger kids got into it, the older kids got into it.
Here's my thing before we close out. When we're talking about characters like X-Men, Spider-Man, you know, these characters, by the time they got to us, how many titles they had? You know what I mean? From when they first came out to when they got to us in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they were so big that they needed more room to play in. So we got to look at these books now and see the books that are doing that. Like you said, like Slaughterhouse was a spinoff, but we don't know, because it's just, you know, there's still so much more to go with these characters and these stories and, you know, these books. Because now I'm thinking about it, I'm looking back at these, you know, characters that we're talking about. These were characters who had so much under their belt by the time we got to them. You know, so many titles. They were already like, so it's like we're talking about a book that just has one spinoff. You know what I mean? And it's like great. It is great. I'm not gonna lie. I have the books. I read them. But I think that we need to give time a chance to catch up to these books and see where they go, because it's unfair for us to talk about, you know, like Spider-Man, because when we got Spider-Man had so many different titles. He was already established. He was on cartoons, TV, fucking, you know, he was on PBS and the Electric Company. Like he, you know, it was big. So we're talking, you know, about characters that were already kind of sort of becoming iconic by the time we were kids. and saw them. So we can't really say like, oh, we can't compare it to these things.
We can't compare it.
But
the one thing I do want to just interject though is like this dude. He came out late 70s, right?
74. 74.
Kind of knew what up. I love that, dude. That's so awesome. But he's kind of new considering.
He's been dying to pull something out all night. I'll let you pull something out.
And he wasn't supposed to make it.
Not the phone book. Go ahead.
This dude was not supposed to make it. He was just going to be a revolving character in Spider-Man for a minute. And then finally they're like, hey, let's try to give him his own series. And then boom, he blew up. Nobody knew some murdering vigilante dude was going to do anything.
Well, I mean, it was the sales of that.
One of the most popular characters of Marvel for a long time. That
copy and every copy he was in, the sales exploded.
Yeah.
You know, because people just and like me as a kid, that vigilante type character, anti-hero, like that shit is the shit. Like even for me, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, 80s, we were all about ninjas, fucking
all
Street
about
Fighter,
Daredevil, just anti-hero, you know what I mean? And vigilante type motherfuckers. Because you had Rambo, you had the Terminator, you had all these motherfuckers. Commando, remember that was a dope movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
American Ninja.
You had all these soldier like, you know, G.I. Joe cartoons. So you got this dude over here who don't give a fuck, shooting guns, all kinds of guns, and
we may or may not have been violent back then, you know.
A little violent, but we was built for that shit. We was built for that. You know what I mean? These kids nowadays, they can't handle that shit. We was built for that shit. You know, but it's already, we hit the hour mark, guys. Of course, as always, Frank, thank you for jumping on, man. I appreciate you. Always coming on, no holds barred. And of course, Paul, you already know, my G. You family, man. And shout out to everybody who was still hanging out with us. And shout out to everybody who came through. And shout out to everybody who's catching the replay right now. Appreciate you for checking us out.
Shout out to Sove. Let's upgrade that tech for next week.
Yes, Sove, I already know what you need for Christmas. I am going to hook you up. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get you that Wi-Fi, get off that Wi-Fi. And but no, man. Guys, once again, thank you so much. We out of here. Hope you have a good night because I got to finish this drink. Y'all already know.
Cheers.
Cheers. Peace.